This podcast is part of the C-Suite Radio Network, turning the volume up on business.
Welcome to the Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer. Join us as Deb talks with her guests, experts in their fields, as they share real-life stories and techniques to power up your business.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today, I am so excited to talk to our guest because he's going to talk to us about, oh my gosh, I have this business and all I do is work. I don't really get ahead. I'm spinning my wheels. Am I really supposed to be doing this? And Josh and his business partner have developed a system to help all of us through that. And yeah, you know what? I'm going to raise my hand and say, I feel that way often too. So please join me in welcoming Josh Fonger to our program today. Welcome, Josh.
Glad to be here, Deb.
Well, let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will just jump right into this. So Josh Fonger is a business performance architect and the co-founder of Work the System. He is an international business consultant, coach, and speaker. He's had the unique experience of personally helping hundreds of businesses grow simply using the WTS method. His specialty is taking stressed out entrepreneurs from working in their business to working on their business using systems so that profit and freedom become a consistent mechanical reality. So again, Josh, welcome.
Glad to be here, Deb, again.
Right. Well, let's go back just a little bit. How is it that you decided that this is your passion in life?
Wow, passion in life. Well, it wasn't by choice. It kind of found me. It's kind of a funny story. Actually, when I was getting my MBA, I wrote a thesis paper about why you should never hire a business coach or a consultant. So that was what I thought. And at the time, I was working full-time in real estate development. So I was a project manager. And as we all know, that crashed. I live in Arizona, and I could not find any work. I applied for jobs all around the world, thousands of applications. And the only job I could find after 9 months of searching that didn't give me a 90% pay decrease was to be a business consultant. And so I thought, well, I think,
okay.
I think God's trying to tell me something here. So basically I thought, and maybe there's a reason why I'm doing the job that I thought had no value. Maybe it actually does have value. And so I ended up doing it, had some really good success with some first clients and just fell in love with it because I really enjoy business strategy and, kind of architecting solutions that give people freedom. And so after that, I just knew that was it. That was my calling.
Great. Well, I mentioned your partner, who is Sam Carpenter, and he wrote this great book, Work the System, and I can't read it backwards, so I have to turn it this way, The Simple Mechanics of Making More and Working Less. And this is the system that you use, and it's, I haven't had the opportunity yet to read the book, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. But it addresses the fact that, for so many small business owners and entrepreneurs, we really do feel like we're spinning our wheels. We work and we work and we work and we work, and we never really get ahead, or we get ahead and then we slide back, all these various things. And I hear that all the time from people, or I'll see them and they'll say, oh yeah, I shut down my business and I've gone back to work in for a corporation, all those various things. So tell us what Work the System is, and let's really get into this.
Well, so there's four key pillars to the Work the System method.
Okay.
And they really fit with all business. We've worked with companies, startups, pre-revenue to $2 billion companies. And we first focus on the mindset to make sure that owners or leaders have the right mindset.
Okay.
They are objectively looking down their business. And that's the first piece. We call it outside and slightly elevated. The second piece of the puzzle is having a strategic objective. So making sure they actually have a clear strategy. They actually know where they're going. They know how they're going to get there, and they have a plan, and it's aligned. It's the products, their pricing, their marketing, their sales, their operations, the customers. It's all in alignment, and it actually makes sense. And so people want to follow them. It's just good leadership. So we make sure they have that. make sure they have operating principles, the principles at which they're going to make decisions so that everyone can assimilate around those. And then we have procedures. So basically, each of the separate tasks that you do in your business, how you lock up the doors at night, how you make an ice cream cone if you are an ice cream cone shop, all those different things have recipes for how to do it the best way. And the idea is that as you build separate pieces of your business, these little assets, each one is going to build on the next. Before long, you're going to have 100 pieces of the puzzle, whereas before you were just going in circles. Okay. And so that's what we work on with businesses.
And I just purely anecdotally, based on people that I have talked with and worked with, so many small business owners don't even have, all of those things that you're talking about. They might not even know why they went into business. They got fired, they got laid off, they decided to quit. They thought, oh, hey, it sounds fun. Let's go do that. All those various things. And more importantly, they have no plan. They're just really trying to get through every single day. And when you ask them, where do you want to be in 5 years? You get the deer in headlights look, let alone where do you want to be, further down the road. And for many of them, they really don't know month to month, what's going to happen. So how do you really, how do you start at the beginning with folks like that?
Yeah, well, so there's some common things that really make you hit a glass ceiling. Okay. It's a ceiling that you think is there, you think it's strong, you're on a plateau, and you don't understand why you haven't broken free. We call it a yo-yo business. So basically, you work a lot of hours, you make some more money, and you burn out, you work less hours, you make less money, you get scared, you make more, you work, and you go back and forth. And, 2, 4, 5, 10, 15 years, you do that. And eventually there's a string of bad things that all happen at the same time. You get sick, your kids get sick, your best employee leaves, whatever, machine breaks, insurance claim, and then you got a business. That's essentially what it is. Because most companies are worth zero. They can't sell them for anything. Right. They can't pass them down to anybody. They're just a slave to it until they die. It's pretty sad, actually. And that's average. That's above average. That's even great companies. It's really just the top of the top percent that actually do it right. And so what we do is help people get beyond that plateau. And so one of it is, like I've worked with 1,000 clients at this point. One of the main things that I've realized is that their mindset is wrong. They have limiting beliefs. They don't actually believe they can do it. They don't believe in themselves. They don't believe in their product. Just those beliefs hold them back. That, if you would have asked me 5, 10 years ago, I would have said, oh, it's just structure. But I'm realizing more and more it's this head game. It's really holding a lot of entrepreneurs back. They really could be doing great things, but they just, they're stuck in their head. The second thing that hits them, that ceiling, is maybe their head's right, but they've never actually put a clear plan in place. And they just say, oh, the plan's in my head. Well, that means they have no plan. Right. And they're always going to be, the plan's going to be move back and forth based on emotions, going to move back and forth based on their Facebook feed, based on their latest client telling them something. They're going to just be tossed in the wind forever. And so that's the second main thing that's going to hit that plateau for you. The third thing is your team. So if you have the right mindset and you have the right vision, but you won't let anyone else do the work, or the people that you've drawn close to you are B and C players, you're just going to plateau because of your team. Right. You're never going to hit beyond a certain level. And that level can be high. Like I had a client who was an attorney, and he was doing, I'm going to guess wrong, it was either $700,000 or $800,000 a year in personal income. That's pretty good. But he was working, he was working 80 hours a week, no weekends off. And, he was a smart guy, but he wasn't building a team. He actually had to slow down, lower sales, build up his team if he was going to go beyond that. Otherwise, he was stuck. It was never getting beyond that. Right. Next thing is business systems. So all this is part of our program. So business systems would be any element in your business that is a repeatable task, such as how you answer the phone, how you make that product, how do you close the sale, how do you set up your company voicemail, customer service guidelines, investment guidelines, communication guidelines, all those components of your business. And so, those people who read Sam's book, Work the System, the one behind me, and the one you showed, he talks about how he went from essentially having 0 things documented, it was all in his head, to really enabling his team so they could document the systems of the business.
Mhm.
And so now they have 400 systems. I mean, they've been doing this for
Mhm.
20 years now,
Right.
but those are the business systems.
Mhm.
And so now it carries on as an entity producing value
Mhm.
without him there based on the clear strategy
Mhm.
and the vision. And the last thing is personal systems. So if you get all this stuff right, but you as a person are a mess
Mhm. Right.
dysfunctionally, right?
Mhm.
You can't seem to get self-control down.
Mhm.
You're staying up late. You're drinking 10 cups of coffee a
Mhm.
day. You're not
Or
taking care of
10
yourself.
cups of something. Mm.
Something, maybe both, right? And
Mhm.
so, if you don't have your personal systems in place, then over time, your relationships, any of those things,
Mhm.
it's destroy your business.
Right.
And so, we take a pretty comprehensive approach, and
Mhm.
first it's determining what is the wall they've hit,
Mhm.
and we identify that early on, get past that, and everybody hits all these walls
Mhm.
at different
Right.
times, at different
Mhm.
different seasons. We want to get past those, and then just build the framework.
Mhm.
And I mean, the reality is, um, it's not going to happen in a day. It's not going to happen in a
Right.
week. We say that we work with it's adults only content. Like we only work with mature business owners.
Mhm. Right.
It doesn't mean you have to be old. It just means
No.
that you have to be ready to actually.
Mhm.
I mean, are you going to build something that's worth something, or are
Right.
you just going to pretend like you're
Mhm.
building something
Mhm.
and then go out of business eventually?
Mhm.
And once people are ready for that, they looked in the mirror and they're ready for a change.
Mhm.
That's when we can start helping them.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, let's start at the beginning. And I know that
Mhm.
it's not really, you have to do this, then you have to do this. As you said, people hit these at various things.
Mhm.
But the first one is, is that mindset. For so many people, they're told, really? You're going to go into business yourself? Ah, why would you think you could do that?
Yeah.
And then that little voice gets internalized, and
Mhm.
and we are just playing at it.
Mhm.
And I actually remember years ago when I first was starting in business, I had a business coach who told me that very specifically, because I had started my business, but it was just kind of here on the side,
Mhm.
and it was fun, and I did it whenever, and but I had a full-time job. Now I
Yeah.
loved it, it was great, and it, all those various things, but so I was torn, which one did I want to do? And so I was talking to a business coach, and she told me that until I had to make Wise Women Communications work,
Mhm.
it was not going to work because I was playing at it.
Mhm.
And, and really making that decision was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, because as I said, I liked where I was. I liked the people I was working with. Now, a lot of people, they don't have that situation, but, actually thinking, okay, I have to make this work has got to be one of the toughest decisions that there is.
Yeah, well, exactly. And in my case, it was easy because, I had a few
You had
kids.
to. Mhm,
Yeah, wife was
mhm,
at home. I mean, it's funny. So I got started in consulting with
mhm,
someone under different than Sam Carpenter
mhm,
when I first got started. And I basically had a list of a couple
mhm,
thousand people. And the guy said, hey, well, if you can make some sales off this cold list, then you can start working with me as a consultant. And there's about 3,000 names. It was the month of
mhm.
December. And I had to
Oh,
sell these people on buying a business budgeting software.
at the end of
So
the year.
yes. So do you want someone to build your
Mhm,
budgeting software for you for
mhm,
$2,000?
mhm.
And it was telephone sales. And that's all I
Oh,
did. I
that's
grinded that.
brutal.
And he said, you can keep half the money you sell, and I built the
Mhm.
models for them, the financial models. And yeah, but made $8,000 in December,
Nice.
kept the lights
Mhm,
on.
mhm,
And then he's like, okay, well, you're in. And then I just kept working with
mhm,
him. And, but it was one of those things where we had to eat.
mhm.
So,
Right.
you got to work.
Mhm,
So it's an easy decision then.
mhm, mhm. Right. And so many times small business owners, one of the big things that they get from their support system is, when are you going to go back and get a real job?
Mhm.
And it's that whole real job mentality where, even if we take it seriously, even if we think we can make this successful, when the people around us are saying, hey, you don't have a real job, that's what makes it really complicated.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and a lot of the online jobs nowadays are not seen as real
Hmm.
jobs. So
Right.
it's getting there, though.
Hmm.
It's getting there. So
Hmm.
I think it's time. And most people are when you're changing and they're not changing, they don't like
Oh, it's
that,
hard.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. They can feel threatened.
Mhm.
And there are certainly people, we do sometimes need those people in our lives as kind of that reality check,
Mhm.
but it should be making us go through those steps and say, wait a minute, this is my real job and here is why.
Mhm.
Or it will be a real job and here is why. And so it's getting past that first hurdle of it is a real job and I can do it,
Mhm.
that is obviously one of the most difficult sometimes to make.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, what was it Simon Sinek with the why? I mean, I think determining your why is
Hmm.
critical, and thinking that through. And it might meander and it might change from time
Hmm.
to time, but really determine. I think it's important to do some introspective on who you are,
Hmm.
who you serve, and how you produce
Hmm.
value. And as long as you can kind of think that through, and it might adjust from season to season, but
Hmm.
that's a big thing
Hmm.
in giving your work meaning, because I think the work that you do, whether it's putting,
Hmm.
I've got a client who they sell tires,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
But they've got a great culture. We're
Hmm.
continuing to grow that up because their why is important. People need tires on cars. It's an
Hmm.
important
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, they're
So
saving people's lives.
yeah.
you know and it's funny because that why sometimes does get lost.
Mhm.
Because for many people, when you say, why are you doing this? Because I have to make money, right? And that
Right.
that is true. If we didn't have to make money, we'd go volunteer.
Mhm.
But we have to be in business to make money.
Mhm.
But it's the in between part, that is the most important.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah. So we definitely spend a chunk of our time on that. But there are tons of experts on
Hmm.
really thinking through that. I can't say that I'm an expert on that,
Hmm.
but I make sure that we first address it, and we kill off all the bad habits.
Hmm.
Infuse some good reasons why they do what they do. We
Hmm.
also set people some goals.
Hmm.
So what would you do with more time? What would you
Hmm.
do with more money? What would your life be like with less stress? What would your
Hmm.
family be like? And we like to let people know that their current reality doesn't have to be their future reality. There
Right.
is a way.
Hmm.
And so we really want to paint that future reality, let them custom paint
Hmm.
that. And then we say, okay, well, there are some steps to get there.
Hmm.
How bad do you want it?
Hmm.
And, we've got a track record that if you work with us, it's going to happen. I
Hmm.
mean, our shortest program is 4 months long because
Hmm.
we know you got to do it over
Hmm.
time, over reality.
Right.
But we did a survey of people who go through our programs, and it's, what is it? Their personal income goes up by $41,000 a year.
Nice.
Their personal time,
Hmm.
they get 10 hours and 14 minutes back every week after
Hmm.
they systemize their
Hmm.
business, and their stress level goes down by over 34%. So the whole thing is, that's not going to happen unless you have a strong reason why.
Hmm.
It's kind of interesting. So some of my best clients are the ones that have the worst circumstances. Is like
Hmm.
they the kid has an illness,
Hmm.
or one of their key partners had a stroke, or someone passed away, or just horrible things have happened recently. Someone stole their biggest clients and they almost went bankrupt. Like
Hmm.
really really scary things have happened to
Hmm.
them, and then they're like, okay, finally I'm going to do this thing.
Hmm.
And then they just have amazing success.
Right.
It's the ones that are comfortable with this mediocrity,
Hmm.
they they'll just stay
Hmm.
there.
Right.
So we have to kind of shake them up a little bit, and
Hmm.
then tell them, hey, that
Hmm.
future is not just good for you, it's good for everyone around
Right.
you if you're a good person.
Hmm.
And that's exciting, and you should
Hmm.
really go for that, as opposed to just staying back here, which
Hmm.
is dangerous.
Hmm.
I mean, fear is a good motivator, but I tell people, like, this place you're in is really dangerous. Like, you only have one good supplier.
Hmm.
Actually, you only have one good employer. You only
Hmm.
have one good, like, you're a week away from going out of business.
Right.
Like, a lot of people
Hmm.
are, and they have this false sense of resilience that is
Hmm.
just not true. I've worked with a lot of companies through bankruptcy. I've worked with a lot of
Hmm.
companies that have had to shut things down, close things off. Um, it's not fun.
Right.
and so I really want to let them know, hey, you have to take action now,
Hmm.
and you need to have multiple streams of
Hmm.
income. You need to have
Right.
multiple streams of leads. You need to have multiple products and services. You need
Hmm.
to have some cash reserves. You need to
Hmm.
have these things in place, a team. And if you
Hmm.
don't, you're so close to
Hmm.
going under,
Right.
and you just don't know it yet.
Hmm.
So.
Yeah. I had that happen years ago when I worked for an agency. We had a client that was a long-term client. I mean, they had been with them for well over 10 years. And it was just one of those things that you said every year, you're going to renew. Yeah. Nobody even really looked at the contracts, did anything. And they were close to, if not 50% of the income for this business.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big chunk. And what happened was, of course, they got a new director of marketing who said, I don't need to work with an outside firm.
Mm-hmm.
And we were stuck. I mean, and I remember our owner of the agency going and meeting with the owner of the company and saying, no, we've worked with you for years. You need to keep us on board.
Right.
And he said, but I hired this guy. I hired this guy to do what you do. And so obviously there had been other things that were probably brewing.
Right.
It wasn't just, oh, look, let's go hire this new guy. It was, they weren't happy with things. And that's a big part of all of this is, where you don't see those obvious signs, where maybe they had been drawing back from us, or maybe they'd been pushing back on some of the ideas, all of those things. And that's really hard when you are that business person, is to see, wait a minute, this might not be going the way we want. Are they returning phone calls, emails? This was before email, or, before we had a lot of email, but were they, and clearly we did miss the signs, and that company then dramatically changed. They had to lay people off. They, had to make some major changes. And because they had never planned, they had absolutely no idea what to do. And that is why planning is so important. And we're not talking obviously about the 1-inch binder that sits on the shelf behind you. That's your marketing plan that you hired a firm to do, and you went, oh, isn't this special? And then you put it back there and you never paid any attention to it. What type of planning really are you talking about?
Well, instead of having vision, values, mission, 5-year plan, 10-year plan, all this stuff, we kind of wrap them all into one single page document. Okay. So all of those ideas go into one page, and it needs to be succinct, because if it gets beyond that, it's just too complex, too convoluted, and so there's no room for extra language. And so it's a one-page strategic objective. And it's basically, if you're looking down your business, 50,000-foot view down, and you want to look, the course of the entire life cycle of your business, exactly where are you going and how are you going to get there? So what is the end destination, and what are the steps to get there? And within that document, we've got a whole plan for doing it. You're going to clearly write down, who your customers are, how your team is. And this is describing things as you're going to build them to be, not current reality.
Okay.
Right. So even if you are a solopreneur, you're still going to cast that vision, and people are going to be attracted to it. Right. They're going to want to be a part of something, and somewhere that's going somewhere. And so you're describing what that is, whether your product or service is going to be the best, who it's going to serve, how it's going to serve them, and, how are you going to attract leads? How are you going to sell to them? Kind of like the essentials strategically of your entire business go in this one-page document. And then once you have that, everybody in the company knows how their specific work, their day-to-day work, contributes to that overall strategic plan actually happening. And so, it's critical. Again, when I first met Sam, I thought, isn't it important just to get to the day-to-day work, the work that actually matters?
Right.
And more, we've been kind of partners for the last 8 years. I've realized that without having a foundation to build everything else on, it's never going to stick. It's never going to last. You're never going to stay true to it long term. And it's going to allow you as the owner to say, you know what, these things are coming and distracting me, but this is still our core. This is still what's true. This is still what we're going after. Otherwise, you will definitely just feel meander, and you'll burn up so much wasted time and energy.
Right. Well, and the important thing is, as you said, it's written down. It's not up in here. Even if you are your business and you have no one else, because you can see it, and it shouldn't be, stuck off in the corner somewhere. Maybe you frame it. I mean, maybe you give it a place of honor, because it should have a place of prominence, and of course, it really is to keep us from doing the squirrel. or, oh, this sounds good. That sounds good. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be, we've all seen businesses that have the product of the month. Oh, this sounds good. That sounds good. Let's do this. Let's do that. I think a lot of people do that with their marketing. Let's try Facebook ads this month. Let's try Instagram ads this month. Let's do direct mail. And, granted that's probably not in the strategic plan, but what's in the strategic plan helps you to determine how your marketing is going to take place.
Yeah. And if you're new to business, you might even have a strategic plan that actually has some sequence to it. So you might say,
right,
we're going to grow by going direct to anybody who knows us, likes us, and trusts us already in a physical way, and then move on to digital platforms that are inexpensive. And then once we have, really satisfied those people and milked that for all it's worth, we're going to move on to scalable advertising solutions, such as Facebook and Instagram. So you might kind of lay it out that way, as opposed to, we're going to market a lot.
Right.
What does that mean?
What's a lot?
And we've most of my clients, I realized that there's $1 million of business just sitting on their lap right now. They're not tapping into, and they're just chasing the next, they think, easy funnel or easy advertising technique. And they're just not willing to go to people in their network and really serve them, listen to their needs, and fulfill those needs, because there's a lot of money just sitting right there.
Right.
So,
and we do look for the easy way, and so it could be, I'm going to start using Facebook or, LinkedIn or, whatever it is, going to attend network meetings. And you mentioned something that's very critical, and that's, why aren't we reaching out to the people who already know us? And it can be friends, family, whatever, and just because they might not do business with us, still doesn't mean they can't be our advocates. And I think that's what many people tend to forget.
Yeah. I mean, this is a childhood story. I don't think I've told it to anyone before, but I started a window washing business when I was 17, I believe. And basically, and I would make $200 a day as a 17-year-old.
Oh, that's not
Essentially, I would just tell all my friends and family, people at church, hey, I got a window washing company. That was it. My schedule was full just from telling people I could serve them. And they were all, yeah, sure. And tell I got a neighbor, and tell this person, and just, that was all I had to do. And I think that goes for a lot, because most people who know you want you to succeed. They want to help you. And so you just have to give them a clear way where they can help you out.
Right. It's funny. I was having this very similar discussion with another guest on the program, and we were talking about the fact that one of the biggest mistakes that we make is that we assume people know what we do. Years ago, I was in part of a networking group in Denver, and, we had the whole big thing where you went around and you gave your 30-second spiel, and then you talked about what your accomplishment for the week and what you needed, and all those things. And we got around to one person, and she said that she was really struggling because she needed to hire a PR firm, and she had absolutely no idea who to hire. And I sat there and I thought, I'm a PR firm. But somewhere in my 30-second spiel, my, all of those things, I had assumed people knew, well, that's what I did. And so, and it wasn't, it certainly wasn't her fault. It wasn't that she didn't pay attention or anything like that. It was that I never came out and said, this is what we do. And it, that was something in person. We don't do that a lot of times on social. We don't do that a lot of times on our websites. I mean, how many times, and you've probably done this a lot, you go to somebody's homepage on their website, you read the whole thing and you think, what is it you suppose they do? Or they only have one or two things. Now, granted, it is a little bit more difficult if you have multiple things, because you don't want to say we do this and this and this and this, but you can generalize and then break it out by page. But yeah, don't make people guess, because of course the problem is they'll either guess wrong or they guess by going to somebody else.
Right. Yeah, and there's a great book in company Story Brand. I think it's Don Miller.
Mhm.
I could be mistaken on that,
Mhm.
but yeah, great book on how to build that
Mhm.
message and build out your website correctly, just to
Mhm.
be really clear about that.
Mhm.
But it's the nice people don't want to be salesy. I know they don't want to pitch
Right.
their friends and family,
Mhm.
but if what you do helps people,
Mhm.
then the nicest thing you could do is be real clear about
Right.
how you do what you
Mhm.
do. And it's a service to them to
Mhm.
know it, and it's a service to
Mhm.
them to buy it if they need it. So I
Mhm.
think it's really important
Right.
to be clear about that.
Right. Or at least refer business to you, and if you're doing something that you're thinking, well, ooh, they're not going to refer business to me. That's kind of weird. I mean,
Mhm.
it might be that they don't have a need for whatever that product or service is,
Mhm.
but they probably know somebody who does, and we all have, pretty big networks. And,
Mhm.
somewhere in there, there's probably somebody that can use what we have.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think in terms of a growth strategy, we talk about building
Mhm.
systems or building
Mhm.
long-term assets. That is an essential asset. You want to talk about cheap advertising, just doing that long-term
Mhm.
as a lifetime is an essential way to
Mhm.
keep your business growing, stable during the ups and downs. If your advertising costs go up, if one of your lead sources dries up, if you're just doing that all the time,
Mhm.
like we're doing this podcast,
Right.
those things are long-term
Mhm.
lead sources for you. And
Mhm.
so it makes a lot of sense to do a long-term nurturing of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what is kind of the meat and potatoes. Anyhow, that's my assumption when I've been looking at your materials, and that's the systems
Uh-huh.
that we have as a business. And it was so interesting to hear when you were talking about it at the start that it's some of it's just the really, really basic stuff. How do
Mhm.
you answer the phone? How do you respond to emails? All these various things. So why is that so absolutely critical?
Yeah, well, if you do something over and over again, it might seem simple to you, but to someone new, they're gonna have no idea how to do it.
Hmm.
So it's critical to document things because,
Hmm.
for one, you're gonna get better at it. It's gonna get
Right.
optimized while
Hmm.
it's thought of. It's also going to be easier to delegate.
Hmm.
Also, it's going to be easier to measure,
Hmm.
and then therefore you're going to be able to hold people accountable to it, and then set up incentives
Hmm.
for it. And then you're going to be able to find technology to automate it.
Hmm.
I mean, there are so many reasons why you should document things,
Hmm.
but the the reason why a lot of people don't do they think they need to document something complicated. So here's
Hmm.
an example. So I was working with a company that fixes nuclear power plants. So they're like
Oh,
at a
that's as complicated as it gets.
yeah. So it's a plumbing company that goes in
Uh-huh.
and fixes live nuclear power plants.
Hmm.
And he said, Josh, I need you to help me with one system. There's only one
Hmm.
problem in my business, and it's how we write proposals. That's
Hmm.
it, just proposals.
Hmm.
Now, and I went there. I was like, okay, I'll fly out there and work with you on
Hmm.
this. And it ends up there are 100 different processes set up that need to happen over a 2-month period in order to write a proper proposal, because these are
Wow.
multi-million dollar
Hmm.
proposals.
Hmm.
And each one of those steps is actually pretty simple,
Hmm.
but it's the combination of all these steps that it
Hmm.
makes it so overwhelming that
Hmm.
really he's the only person who can actually write
Hmm.
one of these proposals properly. And so once you're able to break it down into simple
Hmm.
pieces, because almost everything in your business is simple
Hmm.
if you break it down into the simple
Right.
pieces.
Hmm.
And so that's a lot of what we do, is just take complex things, make
Hmm.
them simple. And so, putting out an event is hard,
Hmm.
but is putting addresses on envelopes hard? No.
Hmm.
Is putting them in the mail hard?
Hmm.
No. Is, putting this post on Facebook hard? No.
Hmm.
So it's 100 different things,
Hmm.
which is, overwhelming. And that's why you can't delegate it. You can't refine it. You
Hmm.
can't measure quality. You can't do anything to get better. But all the pieces that make it up actually are pretty simple.
Hmm.
And so that's a big part of what we do when we systemize a company is we take all the complicated things and make them simple.
Hmm.
And in that case, you realize, you know what? I never thought someone could do this, but now that I know it's these 100 pieces,
Hmm.
I can actually give these 20 to this person, these 20 to
Right.
this person. I'm going to hold on to these 3 because these are really, take a
Hmm.
lot of experience. And then all of a sudden your work dramatically decreases as an owner.
Hmm.
And owners need to realize that their time is way more valuable than they give themselves credit for.
Right.
I mean, they have to understand, like, for them to be doing a $10 an hour, $20 an hour, $50 an hour, $100 an hour task
Hmm.
is slowing the growth of their
Hmm.
business. So
Right.
anything where they can pay someone to do that task is a good investment in their future. And so that's a big hurdle we get them. And it's always a chicken egg thing, like I don't have money, but I want to grow the business. And so you have to do it simultaneously. And you also have to do it in a way that's strategic, obviously, lower cost labor first and work your way up. But a lot of what we do is give people a plan for that. And then we give them confidence to take that next step, because without taking that step, again, you're just gonna be stuck. You're always stuck.
Right. And it is difficult for a small business owner, especially, the one person shop, to let go of things, and yeah, right here. And it's part of it is because I'm the only one that can do it right. I'm the only one who can do it, period. All of these various things. And as well, I don't want to hire it done when I can be doing it, but when we do let go, that it's amazing. I have a producer for this program, worked with her. We're getting ready to go into our third year, and absolutely love working with Kim. And but she was not my first virtual assistant that I hired. And it wasn't until I did exactly what you were saying, where I wrote down, do this, then this, then this, that it really worked. When I said, just kind of, because she can't work that way. If you're giving no direction on how to do something, you're going to try it, but it's probably not going to be done the right way. And so we developed, as you said, templates. Here's the email that goes out when somebody confirms. Here's the email that goes out. Now she's tweaked it to give it her personality. And more importantly, she has tweaked it as she gets questions. She's getting the same question over and over again. Okay, well, add that to the email. And so she's been empowered to do that. She does all the social media posting. I don't even look at it, which is kind of funny. But I know that she's going to do a great job at it. So there's no need for me to spend my time reviewing it. And that's the hard part is actually letting go of that and trusting that person. And, and that really is, but when you have that, that's great.
Yeah. There's a lot of nuggets of wisdom in that whole thing you just mentioned right there. One, you're proving the point that putting systems into place helps, frees up time, increases quality. You don't need to oversee as much. And also the fact that she's now owning it and tweaking it and modifying it, making it better. So she understands the vision. And no one is going to, it's true. If you hand somebody something, they can't read your mind. They're going to do it worse than you at first. But if you tell them, hey, here's a long-term vision, here's where we're going, and here are the decisions I want you to make, and here's the templates, to give them a little bit of structure. And I oftentimes will give verbal messages. So I'll record my voice and just say, here are the steps, here's how I see it, here's what to think about, and then I'll let them write the process for themselves. But I still get to speak into how I think it should go based on my experience, and then they can run with it. It's essential for an owner to learn how to do this. And like you said, I think a lot of it has to do with owners' belief that they really are the best at something. I have this one client right now where, chiropractic office, right? And so I work with a lot of chiropractors and dentists and orthodontists. And so this one, she runs the chiropractic office. Her husband's the chiropractor. And she's like, well, I just got to be there because I got to do this. I got to do this. And I'm the only one who could do this. And I'm the only one who can do this. And I could, there's like 20,000 chiropractic offices in the country.
And you're not there.
I think that, do you think that you're the best in the whole country? Or do you think that maybe, just maybe, it's possible that someone else could answer the phones? And so I think part of that is just kind of getting over the fact that just because you hired C players or B players before doesn't mean A players aren't out there. And again, the mind reading thing is essential to get past.
Right. And getting over our own egos, I think, is probably one of the biggest things, and realizing somebody might do it differently, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. And I'll be honest, that is hard for me to let something go because, I'm the only one who can do it right. And when somebody else does it and it's different, it's like, wow. And most of the time I never even considered that, whether it's volunteer work or, whatever it is. And then I'm just like, oh, hey, that worked. That's pretty cool. And many times and this is the hard part to admit, it worked better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that is hard for somebody to let go of that control and to figure that out. And but yeah, of course, the other thing with having systems in place is it saves so much time. You mentioned that we can cut so many hours out of our day. And, good example, LinkedIn. When somebody is going through and doing their LinkedIn responses, I do this. I get a request from somebody on LinkedIn. I have a standard response that I send to everybody. And, and it's never, ever, ever salesy. That's one of those things that just drives me nuts. But it's cut, paste, cut, paste, cut, paste, cut, paste, cut, paste. And I have it in a document where I can cut and paste so that I'm not retyping. Now I do look at each one, because the worst thing is, if I do cut paste and I needed to personalize it, or, something like that. So, you can't totally automate, but yeah, where you can, save time.
Yeah, and that's a great example. I used to save all my own files. I get about 70 attachments a week, people's procedures they send to me. I used to, save them, stop what I'm doing, put them in the right file, in the right group, in the right quarter with the right client. And I did the math, and a minute and a half of time per file. And it was like hurting the business by about $30,000 a year, just in my time spent saving files for myself. And so, like, why is my assistant not just saving my files for me?
Right.
And, so it's kind of ridiculous, but it's just all those little things. And, one of the exercises we do, it's not a fun exercise, but anyone listening can do it, is we help clients to write down literally everything that they do, from the second they wake up to the second they go to bed for a couple of days, and just look, like, what are you doing? Is there a way you could delegate this? Is there a way you can automate this? Is there a way you can delete this? Is there a way you can optimize this, do it better or faster? And a lot of the things you do, with a little bit of thought, you could do better. Because we talked about, dentistry before we got on the phone. You're like, I bet if you wrote down a procedure for how to brush your teeth, you probably could find a way to do it 30 seconds faster, maybe a little bit better. And you're saying, you know what? I just prevented all these problems in my future and did this better just because I took 20 minutes to focus on one thing I do every day. That's a tough one to delegate, though. You probably can't. Probably can't delegate that.
Probably don't want somebody else to brush my teeth.
No, but the other point I wanted to jump in on that you mentioned when you were talking about the thing before is this idea that people don't do things the way you would do them, and a lot of that comes down to people's belief that their business is them, like they are inseparable. And that kills growth, that kills your future, that kills any ability for your company to be a place of value outside yourself.
Right.
And so, I referenced my business partner, Sam, on this because, when he was, the book is about his transformation, and he, no college degree, no higher education at all, no business experience. He has a company. He's sleeping there. He's living there. He's working 100-hour work weeks. He's about to go bankrupt. And, he changes everything. But now, it's 7 companies, multiple nonprofits. He's involved in politics, and he's working less than ever before. It's because he saw them as separate entities that create value for their do their intended purpose. Not this company is me, so I have to, like, if it goes bad, then I feel bad about myself. And really separating the two is hugely freeing for most people.
Right. Well, and even if your company is say you're a public speaker, somebody else will, but there are still so many things that you can delegate, and some of it, might be simple one-time thing. Your website needs updated. Okay. Is it the best use of your time to be updating your website? Or can you hire it done? And all of these things. And that does come back to the money. Sure, it might cost $500, $1,000, whatever, to have somebody else update it. But if you're not focusing on what you should be doing, you're losing money during that time. So it's a loss as opposed to a win-win.
Right. Well, and also I think it's important, if people want to get deeper into this topic, when you're identifying what you do as a business owner, when I have owners do this, they'll write down all the things they do. They might do sales, they might fix the website, they might edit their own videos, they might, write or do all these things. And then I'll ask them the question. I'll go, well, then who's the business owner here? Because the business owners should be, doing joint venture partnerships, developing new products and services, expanding, building the brand, the vision, acquiring new capital, like the things that an owner does, no one's doing in this company.
Right.
You're just doing the things that, a staff person does. And so that's why the company's not going anywhere, is no one's acting as the owner of this business right now.
Right.
And I think that's important too, is those things take time. It takes time to develop, a strategy. It takes time to develop partnerships and to look at new product lines and innovation and marketing. Those things take a lot of time and effort and energy. And if you're burning it up on website updates, you're just stuck.
Right. And I always mention website updates because I like playing on my website. I mean, I just enjoy doing that, but it is a waste of time. I need to be honest about that. And so I do, and it's funny, I've talked about this multiple times. I do the 15-minute rule. If it's going to take more than 15 minutes, it needs to go to somebody else. I can't do my taxes in 15 minutes, so it's got to go to somebody else. And it is hard to admit that, oh my gosh, I don't know it all, but I don't want to know it all. I mean, I take my car to somebody else to have them change the oil. Why not have somebody else work on my website?
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And I've gone through and kind of purposely not learned things just because I know that if I learned how to get into WordPress, I'd probably play around with it.
Oh yeah.
I don't do anything on social media because if I learned, then I might start doing stuff on there. And I think one thing people need to realize is that if you have a good team that you trust, that certainly that helps. But it's okay if you respond in 24 hours, like instead of 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 2 hours. Like it's people, unless you are doing, brain surgery or you're, you're trying to put a rocket ship to the moon or something, almost everything can wait a little bit of time. And if you give yourself that extra 5 hours, 10 hours, that's when you can start to have other people do the work. It's when everything has to happen like right now. That's when you get forced having to do the work yourself. And so I think that, it's one of our principles, having buffer time. I think building buffer into each activity in your business allows you the space to say, oh, I could do this, but it really doesn't need to be done for 2 days. So I'm going to have someone else do this.
Right.
I could do this, but, and then you give yourself that freedom. But if everything has to be done like right now, like, okay, there's a typo on your website.
Right.
Yeah, it's annoying, but is it okay if it happens tomorrow? Yeah, it's okay.
Right.
It's going to be just fine. Like the world will continue to revolve. And so in the world of digital businesses, mistakes are so easy to correct that I think it's one of Amazon's principles that like if people aren't making mistakes, they're going too slow.
Right.
Like you should be making mistakes. If you're not making mistakes,
it's
you're not pushing it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're going to be on that.
And I love, one of the things that is talked about in the book and in your other materials is we have to stop just putting out fires. And I think that really is that whole sense of urgency, whether it's, oh my God, I have to respond to this email right away, or, I have to post on Facebook right away. I have to do that. I have to. No,
Yeah, I've done some big launches where I was busy. And, I do a podcast just like you. I was like, I'm just not putting a podcast out this week. No one's going to, get that upset. Did the world
stop? No.
It's okay. Really, no one really minded. It was just fine.
Which is a little blow to your ego. But you know what?
It's not a big deal. And same with emails, you don't respond to any emails for a day or two. Because you have something really important that's going to take your business to the next level. That's perfectly fine. I think it's important to block out that time. I'm a big believer in block out time. And the more of it, the better, because you can't really make any new initiatives come to life, new architecture built in your business, unless you as the owner drive it. A lot of times you have to drive it. And that's where you want your time spent, is doing those things. And if it's just responding to the urgent, the fires, we mentioned, fire prevention specialists is what we want to be. then you can't get anywhere in business. And it feels like work, but it's like the idea, it's the dopamine. People get addicted to dopamine.
Right.
I mean, they get addicted to customer service support requests, just like they get addicted to Facebook, just like they get addicted to YouTube. It's the same chemical. And so you have to acknowledge that reality and kind of break free.
Right. And I love that you mentioned blocking out time, because I'm bad about that, but I know I need to. I am one of those people that my email is open all the time. And, and I have the preview pane, so that way I can at least look to see, does it need to be done right away, or can I wait? Now, of course, the problem is sometimes if I wait, it doesn't get done. But at the same point, okay, did the world stop because I didn't respond to that? And I know that, of course, one of the biggest time wasters, which can be a time saver, is email. The people who only read their emails once, twice, 3 times a day, they're clearly still getting work done. They're still getting business done. And personally, if somebody really needs to reach me, they know, pick up the phone. I mean, that's going to be the place where I'm probably always going to respond, and respond fairly quickly, or text me. I mean, that really is the way to do that. But I tell people, no, it really does have to be a critical emergency, not, hey, but it's okay to put stuff off. And then, like I said, if it really got put off forever, must not have been that critical, or they would have reminded you,
Right.
hey, Deb, you didn't respond to my email. What do you think? But yeah, even, and of course, Facebook. I mean, social media is my other bugaboo. And if I need to focus, of course, what I do is I turn it off. And I do have all my systems set so that they're not sending me the notifications, because I'm the squirrel kid. If I go to read that, well, then I have to read that. Well, then I have to read that. And then the problem is I totally forgot what I was working on to start with.
Yeah. And a lot of entrepreneurs are like that because they're excitable. They're very optimistic. They're willing to take risks. They love to learn. And that's, I think, is a huge strength. But at the same time, they need to realize the reality that's a huge weakness as well, and to determine how do they set up those boundaries, how do they set those borders, and whether it is check email 3 times a day or whatever that might be, the cadence. But for us, we try to set your internal team on a communications guideline. So it's one of the systems we set up so that, there is, your project management tool, there's going to be Facebook, and there's text messages, and there's instant messages, and there's Skype, and there's GoToMeeting, and there's all these different channels where you can communicate with somebody. And as your team grows, so does the complexity of the communication and the unwritten rules and the assumptions, and it gets to be really clouded. And so I think it's really important that if you have a team, your team knows that, if it's an email with a normal subject line, that means respond within 24 hours. If it says urgent in the subject line, respond as quick as you can. If it's really, really urgent, then you do it, like the text message at the same time. But at least some kind of cadence so they know, because, and I interview a lot, people have seen the movie Office Space. So I go around and I interview a lot of staff and see what's going on. And what I think a lot of owners don't understand is that when you as the owner deliver any message, text, email, phone call, any message to anybody on your team, everybody, since you're paying them, they're going to stop whatever they're doing and do whatever you told them. Even if it's even if it's totally going to screw up their workflow, it's going to be very inefficient. It's going to, really mess up important projects and distract them. So you're like your biggest distraction to your team. And so oftentimes my clients will make more money when they're not there than when they are there.
Right.
Because of the distractions they cause. And so what I want to do is kind of help people get beyond that by coming up with these protocols, these communication systems. Otherwise, no one really knows. And so they always feel like they have to check email. They always feel like they have to respond because they don't know. But if I say, hey, if I give you an email, it's okay if it comes back to me tomorrow. I'll let you know if it's urgent, but otherwise keep doing what you're doing. I'm not upset. I'm not sitting here waiting for a response. It's okay if it takes 24 hours.
Right. And the ones that drive me nuts are the responses, thanks, okay, yes, no, no. I mean, if you're responding with just one word, you probably didn't need to respond. But yeah, it's just, and then of course there's the whole CC thing. If I've CC'd, and I worked with somebody one time who had this rule. If she was CC'd, she put it at the bottom of her priority. She thought, nah, really doesn't matter. And so then, of course, what did we do? We learned, well, don't CC her, put her, even if it wasn't something that was critical, we didn't want her ignoring that. And so, yeah, she built an unrealistic expectation, and then we just fed into that.
Yeah, well, everyone will come up with their own rules. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was working with Sam on a political campaign like 5-6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we brought in the campaign manager to help with some of the communications.
Mm-hmm.
And he would send an email about some press release.
Mm-hmm.
And then within 5 minutes, he would send a text message to us.
Oh.
And then within a minute later, he'd send an instant message. And then he would call us.
Mm-hmm.
This is all within 5-minute period.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And, and I won't name his name, but I just said, hey,
stop that.
This is not urgent. We're going to do a press release. It's going to happen this week.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'll look at my email once a day.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be just fine.
Mm-hmm.
You have other things to work on. But he would every single time,
Mm-hmm.
phone call, text, instant message, email.
And there's like
for every single
15
one.
minutes of his time right there.
Yeah, well, exactly. And so,
Mm-hmm.
but he was used to the franticness of his previous campaign where everything was frantic and everything was urgent. Everyone was on fire all the time. And
But you guys were so organized, of course.
Well, it just didn't have to be that way. I mean, there are some things that you want to focus, like if you're going to be on camera in 5 minutes, then let's get dialed in. But otherwise, you can get way more production work done if you do things in batch and do things in sequence. If you do things based on strategy, I think that's a big thing. And that's, again, back to the mindset. If you're outside and slightly elevated, then you actually can have that viewpoint.
Right. Well, oh my gosh, Josh, we only have a couple of minutes left, and this has been great. The time has just really gone. And so, all that means is that we just have to have you on again. And so one of the things that we didn't get to talk about at all is the personal aspects, because we mentioned, you said, there's kind of the 4 pieces, and then it gets down to your personal life. And it's interesting. One of the FAQs on your website says, is this system good for teenagers? And of course that answer is yes, because I mean, you talk about people that have no system, and no control, and that's teenagers. I mean, they're going 900 miles an hour in 500 different directions. And so, I wanted to put that out there, is that this is something that if you've got teenagers in your life, have them read this, have them look through it, and just see, what can they be doing in their life?
Yep. Oh yeah. Oftentimes the systems that are quickest to put in place and have the biggest impact are the ones that are in your personal life, because they don't cost much and you can do them instantaneously and get the rewards every day. So big impact there.
It's funny. I was remembering as you were talking about that earlier about a cartoon I saw years ago, and it was a little old man. And he was saying, he watched his wife make breakfast, and he counted the number of steps that she went from here to here, to the fridge, to the fridge, to the stove, to the table, to the sink, to the fridge. And, and she had 100 steps that she could have easily, done away with. And then of course the punchline was, he can now do it in 50 steps, because she went, nah. But that is kind of the thing. What can we do? And more importantly, can we pass it off? Or if somebody thinks they can do it better, fine, let them.
Yep. Yeah. We're a big believer in that at our house. We use checklists. We use Todoist to kind of manage our household. So it's kind of weird, but I think it helps things run much better, because the option is you can be disordered or ordered. What would you prefer to be? And an orderly life is going to be more effective and actually more peaceful, more enjoyable, and actually you're going to have more time and energy to do things you want to do. So I'm a big believer in it.
Yeah. And my husband does these unbelievable checklists. I do a to-do list for every week. And, and I've gotten more and more into the habit of doing that because it helps me focus. Do things get moved around? Do they get crossed off? Sure. But it keeps me on track to remember, oh yeah, I need to do that on Wednesday.
Yep. Yeah. 100%.
Right. Oh, Josh, this really has been great. And like I said, time just, flew by because this is so much fun talking about this. But how do people find you and connect with you?
Well, the best place would be to go to workthesystem.com/business power hour.
Cool.
So workthesystem.com/business power hour. And that's a page just for the listeners of your podcast. And so I believe what we're going to have on there is, first off, a free copy of Sam's book, Work the System. So you can download that or get the audio
and look
version.
at this book, folks. This is a good sized book. So you're not downloading a PDF that's 5 pages long.
Yeah, I mean, it's in its 3rd edition. It's got thousands of reviews. It's in 5 languages. It's been around 10 years. It's like, if people have read the book, The E-Myth, this is like the next book you'd want to read. So The E-Myth talks about how you should build systems. This one actually shows you how. So it's a really life-changing book. And so I would definitely do that. I mean, you can buy it for $25 or you could just get it for free on our website.
Perfect.
That would be the first thing. Also, I do a podcast as well where I interview people like you, Deb, and other experts or previous clients of mine. And we talk about how to improve their business so they can be more efficient. And then also, the flagship product of our company is our group coaching. So basically every quarter, I take a number of entrepreneurs through a program and, they're stuck in it for 4 months, but they have amazing results. And so you can read about that on the same page.
Perfect. I love it. And again, that's workthesystem.com/business power hour. And thank you for setting up a page just for this. Well, do you have any final thoughts you want to leave everyone with?
Final thoughts is, I would say, you can do a whole lot more than you think you can, but you have to think long term. I think would probably be the main point, kind of as we summarize everything we're talking about, is don't get overwhelmed with the day-to-day. Think long term and realize that the pieces that you build are going to produce ROI. And so maybe that system you built, it's only going to last you. It's not going to kind of reach ROI for 2 weeks or 2 months. But eventually it's going to hit break even. And then after that, it's going to pay you back for the rest of your life. And so invest in the future, invest in your future, your team's future, and you won't regret it.
Great. I love it. Well, I really have been having a great time talking with Josh Fonger. I'm Deb Creer. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer. Join us next time for more real-life stories and techniques to power up your business.
You've been listening to C-Suite Radio. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.